everyone, and welcome to part one of our lecture on Chapter 3 Researching and Writing the Literature Review. So, a big part of writing research is the literature review. And we really can't talk about a literature review without providing a definition of it because it's a little bit different than what you might think of in other classes. Because a literature review isn't just a review of previous literature, rather, it's a synthesis of the entire body of all of the original research studies in a particular topic of interest. So instead of thinking about our literature review as just reporting different literature studies and summarizing them, a true literature review is engaging, discussing, and synthesizing the body of work in its entirety. And the literature review serves multiple purposes in research. One of the purposes is to demonstrate that you, as the researcher, have a grasp on the topic of interest that you're studying. And the literature review goes out and says, I know all of these things about this topic. The other purpose of the literature review is to support the argument that your research study is important and necessary to the field. So the literature review sets up, I know all of these things about this previous or this current topic, while also saying, based on what's missing from this literature, I'm going to propose my own project, and here's what it is going to be. And you get all of that framework from the literature review. When you're working on a literature review, there are a few different ways that you can research the information that's available to you. One of the most primary things that you will probably do and that most people do now is they use libraries and online databases. And a lot of times, especially here at CSU, you can access a lot of online libraries and databases through our library websites. And I also added a list or a PDF of step-by-step document of how to navigate these online databases on Canvas. You can check that out. But also don't forget that you can actually physically go into the library at CSU and get a lot of help in terms of your research. They have a lot of resource librarians on campus who can help you with navigating specific fields of research as well as just understanding how to explore the library and the online databases because they are the experts in the field. One of the other things that you can do is you can utilize search engines such as Google Scholar or even EBSCOhost, these search engines that are primarily used for cataloging research articles. And one of the really cool things about a lot of these search engines is that most of them use a similar type of search engine protocol. So what I mean by that is if you learn how to search on one search engine, whether that's Google Scholar or EBSCOhost, you can apply the skills that you learn in other search engines. So a lot of times when you are using those search engines, you really want to rely on the advanced search feature rather than the quick search features, because when you use the advanced search features, you can limit the amount of information that you're seeing so that you can really narrow down what information you're looking for. So I'm going to go through some examples of this with you, but a good starting place is to use Boolean operators. So Boolean operators are all capital words such as and, or, and not, which are used to combine keywords while you're searching. When you use these Boolean operators, you can really start to narrow down your research lens when you're navigating these online search engines so that you are really only providing yourself with the most important research instead of having to sift through 30,000 research articles. So I have a quick example of this as well, and this is from PsycInfo, which is the APA search engine that's hosted by EBSCOhost. And you can see here, this is the advanced search feature, which is actually the default on APA PsycInfo. So you'll notice on the bottom below the search bars, there are these options for basic search, advanced search, and search history. As you can see, I have the advanced search feature selected, which provides me with multiple categories in which I can search. But one of the things that you can also do in a lot of these search engines is you can select what type of information you're looking for. So you can see here that I am looking for an article that has the word suicide and gender, and they must appear in the abstract. And then I can also search for things like sex assigned at birth, and I can select where I want that to appear in the article. If I want it to appear in the title, if I know the author's name, I can put it in there. If I want it to be in the subject line of an article, I can use that as a search feature. You can really start to narrow down your searches here. And you also have the option for the Boolean operators here, which is where you can select if you want both terms to be there, which is going to be the and feature. If you want an either or situation, which is what I have selected for gender and sex assigned at birth, I'm saying if either of those appear, show me that article. And then you can use the not feature that says I'm looking for gender and not sex assigned at birth. So these Boolean operators can again narrow down your research, and you can also use quotation marks. So like I have here around sex assigned at birth, when you use quotation marks in your search features, you are telling the search engine, I need this exact phrase. I don't want some iteration of this. I need to see this exact terminology. Sex assigned at birth, somewhere in the article, in the abstract, whatever it is that you're searching for, it has to be this term. So I have another resource for you that can be sort of helpful, and please take a screenshot of this or do what you need to. I also share my slides, so keep this for what you need, but here is a quick little thing on how to search Google like a pro. And actually, a lot of the features on here work for a lot of search engines. So quotation marks, as I mentioned, which tells the search engine that you need this exact phrase. You can use dashes to exclude information from your search. You can use a tilde to say that you want synonyms of that term. You can use semicolon to tell the operator that you only want to look within certain websites. The vertical bar will tell search websites that you have one, two, or all of those terms. And if you use two periods when you search, you can look within number ranges. So you can select the specific range of time that you're looking for. So again, just some really quick features that will help you to narrow down what you're looking for and really start to give you an idea of what's out there for research without having to sift through hundreds of thousands of articles. Because exploring literature can be a little bit daunting. And a lot of times we are asked to navigate as researchers 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 articles and try to figure out what is the base of information that we need to know to propose our study. And even once you are in those systems and you find articles that you like, maybe you don't have access to it. And that's where interlibrary loan comes into play. So interlibrary loan is the ability for us as researchers to access an inventory of books and articles that are available in a library other than the CSU library. So interlibrary loan is this connection where CSU's library, as well as other university libraries, have connections with one another so that they can share resources. So if one library has access to an article but another library needs it, they can loan it out and they can share it. And there are multiple ways that you can access interlibrary loan through CSU. So I thought I'd go through some of those examples so that y'all have access to this information if you've never used interlibrary loan at CSU. One of the first things that you're going to do for interlibrary loan is you're going to go to the CSU library website. This is what it looks like, and on here you will see the tab or sort of the drop down menu for services. When you select that services feature, it's going to open a drop down menu. And within that drop down menu, there's an option for interlibrary loan. If you select that hyperlink for interlibrary loan, it will pull up the interlibrary loan website or sort of the landing page for the CSU library. You can then log in to your interlibrary loan account. This is going to be your regular net ID and password. So whatever you use to log into Canvas or to log into any other university system, you will use that to access Interlibrary Loan. So once you log in, this is what the home page of Interlibrary Loan looks like. And on this page, you can see that there's a plethora of information. But the main thing that you're going to be focused on if you're looking for a loan of an article is this far left column that says New Request, where you put in a request for an article, a book chapter, conference paper, whatever it is that you're looking for. If you select one of the hyperlinks in that area, it will open a new form for you to fill out and request that item. So here's what the article request form looks like, where it has just blank numbers beside the things that you have to, or it has blank boxes beside each of the categories that you need to fill out. Anything with a red asterisk sign is a required piece of information. And if you scroll down on this request form at the end, there will be an option for you to submit your request. And each request will look a little bit different because your request is going to be specific to whether or not you're requesting an article, a book, or a book chapter. Typically, if you're requesting an article or a book chapter, they're going to come in PDF form via email. If you are requesting a book, they are going to come in physical form that you can then go and loan out from and check out from the library. So that's the way that you can access Interlibrary Loan by itself. But interestingly, if you are accessing the databases like APA PsycInfo, there's also a hyperlink to our CSU Interlibrary Loan. So say you are looking for articles. So I just took a screenshot of a search that I was doing, and you can see on here that there are multiple articles that come in different forms. If you look at article number 5, the middle one, this one has a full HTML full text access. It also has a PDF of the full text of the article. So that means that from the minute that I found this article on PsycInfo, I could download the entire article as it is. There are other articles where you're going to see that they are what we call open access. When an article has this open access symbol beside it, that means that you can find it through your CSU information because CSU has access to the database that houses that article. So you don't have to wait. You can essentially get it instantaneously, but you just might have to select a few things to be able to get there, like you have to go to a different journal or something like that. But sometimes you're going to have an article that doesn't have a PDF full text and isn't open access. And when you encounter those, you're going to select that box that says Find It at CSU. And when you select that Find It at CSU button, the info database that you are in is going to automatically launch you into CSU's library. And it's going to say in CSU's library the different ways that you can access this article. If it were open access or if it were available in another journal, it would show up here. This particular article is not available through another journal and it's not open access. So what we need to then do is select this CSU Fort Collins Interlibrary Loan. And if you select this button or this hyperlink and you are logged in, or after you log in, the Interlibrary Loan website is going to automatically fill in the request that you need. And as you can see here, it goes in and it autofills all of the categories for this particular article that I am searching for. So this is another way to streamline your searches for Interlibrary Loan so that you can get access to materials. I will give you the heads up that you want to double check that when it autofills information that all of it is correct. Sometimes the page numbers are incomplete or they're off by just a page or two, so you just have to be careful and double check that information. And then once your information or once your article is there, you can show or you can find them right here through the Download Your Documents tab. And you'll get an email from the Interlibrary Loan website that says, hey, your article is ready to be picked up or ready to be downloaded. So know that you have that option as well. Another thing that can be really helpful when you are exploring the literature in the topic of interest that you're interested in is a thing called an annotated bibliography. And an annotated bibliography is a brief summary of any articles or books that you've read, including any explanations that you have or comments about the citation itself. So, the annotated bibliography is really a way for you to streamline your writing process, especially if you do what I recommended last week on writing your annotated bibliography or your summary of the article in your own words and in relation to your own research topic. If you're writing your annotated bibliography in your own words, then you can, and if it's in relation to your topic of interest, you can then copy and paste exact phrases, exact sentences, or paragraphs out of your annotated bibliography into your literature review. This is a way to help you make sense of and organize all of the information that you're going to be navigating when you're writing a literature review for an article or for the research prospectus. But even finding the articles is just one step, because a lot of times you are reading so many articles that it can be hard to try to manage them and to try to organize them and to really understand what everyone is saying. So it can be helpful to create systems that will help you understand that information a little bit better. One of the ways that you can do that is by creating a guiding table. So a guiding table helps you to understand the studies that you are reading a little bit better and to grasp what information needs to go into the literature review. So the way that a guiding table works is you create an Excel document or a Word table, and you put in that table every single article that you have read. And each article, you are going to assign an ID number, whether that's by number, like this was Article 1 that I read, Article 2, Article 3, or whatever unique ID numbers make sense for you. And that's going to be the first column of your guiding table. You're then going to add in other columns that are going to include information about the articles or the book chapters or books that you're reading to help understand the information. So a lot of times this is going to include the author's names, maybe even the publication and study dates. If it's of interest to you, the location of the study. So if you're looking at cannabis studies, are you paying attention to whether or not the cannabis study took place in a rec state, in a med state, or in any legal state? So maybe you're paying attention to location. Maybe you're also paying attention to theories used or the participant information. All of this information and so on is going to go in each individual column that will help break down the information in each article so that when you are going back and you're writing your own literature review, you can go back to your guiding table and see, okay, here's what these articles were about. If I want to focus more on these articles, if I'm only looking at articles that did research in rec states, then maybe I only want to look at these articles because you gather that information in your guiding table. There's a really very detailed example in our textbook of a guiding table on pages 59 through 63. If you want, I encourage you to take a look at it. These guiding tables work really well for some people and they don't. And the reason why I'm presenting both annotated bibliographies and guiding tables is because part of the process with research is finding what works for you. And maybe one of these things will work for you and maybe neither of them will. We're just trying to find a way to help you organize all of the literature that you're going to be combing through while you're writing your research literature review. Another option for finding and organizing information is using your conceptual graphs. So conceptual graphs are what we use when reviewing the literature to understand our concept of our study. We actually talked about these conceptual graphs in our lectures on in week 1. And a lot of times when you're going through your literature review, it can cause changes to your conceptual graph. So this is the conceptual graph that we talked about in week 1, where we're looking at the ways that we can measure concepts and how we can break down constructs so that they make sense in our study. And maybe as we're going through our literature review, we make small adjustments to our conceptual graph. And that's okay. That's actually a really normal process when it comes to doing research, is that as you learn more, as you read more of the current research that's available, you start to see how your research might need to change or how you want to adapt your study to account for other research that's out there. Another option that you can use when organizing your own work is to really just use your own style. All of us as researchers have our own unique organization of our literature, and no matter the style that we use or what system we use, we just want to make sure that the way that we're organizing our literature makes sense logically to us. So find a system that works for you because it's a complicated process, and anything that you do, as long as it works for you, is going to be helpful. Also, another way that you can understand and organize literature is by looking for patterns. And the way that we talk about looking for patterns is by really finding the simple and effective ways to categorize articles together. So, saying, all right, I found these 4 articles, and all 4 of these say that cannabis use in rec states is decreasing. I found these 4 articles that all say cannabis use in med states is increasing. And you can categorize them that way and look for patterns that when you're writing your literature review, instead of saying this individual article and this individual article and this individual article all said that cannabis use is changing, you can say many researchers are saying that cannabis use in these states are changing, and then provide a citation for all 4 articles instead of saying independently, this research found this finding, this researcher found this finding, this team found this finding. Looking for patterns can help consolidate your information so that when you come time to actually sit down and write your literature review, you can do so in a more concise way. And I think it's really corny, but our book has a really good example of this through this image. So it's figure 3-3 if you're looking at our book, where when you are organizing literature, it's almost as if you have multiple people who are researching the same topic. And each person is likely to have their own perspective of critically thinking about the literature, thinking about organizing and explaining why the problem occurs. And it's each of those people that are going to be in your head talking at once that are saying, here's my presenting problem or the thing that I want to research, and here are all of the different ways that I can do that. And things like the conceptual graph, the guiding tables, annotated bibliographies are going to help you with not only entertaining all of these perspectives to the same problem, but also organizing the information in a way that makes sense. So that is going to wrap up our first half of the lecture on chapter 3. Join me for the next lecture where we're going to continue talking about literature reviews and especially focusing on critically thinking. So I will see you all in the next lecture.